Okay, looks like I'm live here now. Today I thought I would just talk about writing in comics again because that's literally the only thing that's been on my mind these days. And I'm gonna go ahead and send out the link on Twitter. Give me 1 second here, and I know I copied it already. All right, here we go. Live streaming now. Post. Yeah, I had so much fun with this last time that I was like, all right, let me talk about this stuff again. I posted on Twitter, but it doesn't look. It looks weird. It doesn't have the little picture that goes along with it. It kind of sucks. Um, Let me look at it again just to make sure. Go to my actual account. Hmm. Bookmarks, profile. It'll do. Anyways, so today I wanted to get into what the best storytelling paradigm for comics would be. And not a lot of it you you haven't heard of these, okay? There's Story Grid, the one that I've been reading the most. Well, at least the one I've been reading the most recently. My friend Ben Bates, who's got a Kickstarter for his book Power Stars. He's the one who introduced me to this storytelling paradigm, and it actually really helped me start writing and understanding how to order stories better and to allow them to and to really get started with the writing process a lot easier than before. Um, I would say my favorite though is this one called Dramatica. It's called Dramatica Story Theory, and it's probably the most dense, complex storytelling theory that you'll ever come across. It's very it's not difficult to grasp, but there's a lot of concepts that you need to rearrange your thinking about in order to understand it fully. And so it's kind of hard to fully digest, and it takes a while to really understand. And I started getting into it probably when I was like 12 or 14. Well, not 14. Maybe around 16, 17, maybe later than that, probably 20 or something. That I was introduced to it for the first time, and I was like, all right, I looked up how to tell complete stories, how to tell full complete stories. And this is what showed up because I'd read a lot of comics in the past, comics that were so good that I was like, all right, this felt like a complete experience. It gave me everything that I wanted out of a comic that I would want to experience. And I want to learn how to write like that, but I want to learn it in a way that is repeatable and measurable. Something that I could do over and over again, at least what's the word? Reliably. And Dramatica was the only book that had that kind of solution. Because every other storytelling paradigm seems to run linearly. Like it'll tell you like the 3 act structure. You start the story, inciting incident, and then it raises up, and then you got the climax, which is the highest point, and then the resolution. And it's like that's solid for getting started off, um, learning how to write and whatnot. And that's what I learned in high school, and it's great just to get you started on the process. And anything that can help you get started writing faster is um is good. But Dramatica was the only story theory to think about it dimensionally, where it's looking at it in different. I don't even know how I would describe it, because it's not just a one line thing; it's several lines, and they call them through lines, and those are the things that. How would I put this? It balances the story out in a way that make sure you're covering all the bases of the story that you're trying to tell. So let's say you're trying to make an argument with your story, or you have a specific theme that you're trying to argue, like saying that orange markers, it's better to have orange markers than it is to have blue markers, or something like that. Then the theory of Dramatica would present that to you in 4 different through lines. Hey, what's up, Red? Said, fellow, hi everyone, my fellow artists and painters. You're the only one here today, man. But I'm just talking about storytelling, start talking about writing, and I'm talking about my favorite storytelling theory called Dramatica, which is basically how I learned to tell like complete stories with several through lines that allow you to tackle the issue of the story from all angles and allow you to allow you to tell it without losing, without missing anything. So Dramatica proposes that there are 4 through lines in every story, or in every complete story, and that is the overall story through line, the main character through line, the relationship through line, and the, what was the last one? Oh, the impact character through line. So in every complete story, and for examples of complete stories, you would look at the first 15 Pixar movies, where you have one character who presents one point of view, and then you have another character who presents the opposing point of view, and they balance out the main character by telling them exactly the opposite of what they're thinking. And it's up to one of those two characters to change their way of thinking to the impact character's way of thinking. Um, and so through those 4 through lines, if you have all 4 of those through lines and you explain them fully, or you explore them fully throughout the course of your story, by the end you should reach a complete full argument that tells what you're trying to get across to the reader. And a good example of this would be the, what was I thinking about? You threw me off, Red. The a good example of a complete story would be, oh yeah, the Chimera Ant arc of Hunter x Hunter. Like, everyone who's done a deep dive into the Chimera Ant arc, or anyone who's just casually watched it, they get the meaning of it by the end of that story. They understand what um Togashi was trying to say with that. They understand it by the end. But and no, you're good, Red. You said, did you ever hear of Dave Gibbons? Yeah, of course. The artist of Watchmen, and he created another comic called The Originals, which I haven't read. But yeah, Dramatica, it explores stories fully, and that this is really just scratching the surface of it. I can't really do a deep dive into it because there's so much um theory and density to it that it's hard to get into, which is why I recommend Story Grid first, because it's more approachable to get into. There's tons of videos on YouTube about um how to start the writing process and what to write, that it's easier to approach it with Story Grid first, and then Dramatica allows you to fill in the holes where you weren't able to. Like, if you get stuck on a story and you're wondering, I need a character to fill in this role that I don't like, it feels like my story has holes in it that aren't filled yet narratively, then you would go to Dramatica, because Dramatica covers narrative from all bases. It covers it so that it fills in all the holes of it. And so with Story Grid, Story Grid is, was I trying to talk about Story Grid? Because there's something I wanted to say about it, but Story Grid will get you writing, and Story Grid gives you a way to edit your your writing so that you're not just wandering around in the dark. You actually you actually understand what you're trying to do. And that's the thing I wanted to say about StoryGrid. I just remembered. The thing about StoryGrid is if you know the two main things that you need to know at the beginning of the writing process is who is your audience, who are you trying to speak to, who are you trying to write to, and then what are you trying to say to them? So like what are you trying to say to them is your theme, and then who is your audience is how you're going to say it to them and what they want to hear. Basically, like what are readers of Shonen Jump looking for? They're looking for action, they're looking for adventure, they're looking for emotion and catharsis. So it's your job as a creator to give it to them the in the way that they understand. You can't write a shoujo story for a shonen audience. They're not gonna take it well. They're not gonna understand it as well as an action story. Red, you said DC bring back Dave Gibbons with traditional colors, no shadows. As a comic artist, my life is yours. um, did you do any panel grids? Panel grids. Yeah, I do panel grids all the time, but that's for like the process of drawing. I don't use pre-made grids or templates or whatever. I just draw what needs to be created for the page so that I can move the story along. And one thing I'm trying to study recently is how different manga use do their paneling so that I can copy the same thing and make it make my stuff as readable as manga is, because there's so much to learn from how manga creators layer information and put it together that it would be a waste not to study it. They Oda does what I consider using the entire buffalo. He uses the whole buffalo to make his art. He uses everything possible to get across his ideas. Like he'll use sound effects, he'll use negative space, he'll use the speech balloons, he'll use everything to really put across the idea and the feeling that he wants you to feel in his stories. Um but yeah, that's really it. Like if you read Dramatica and Story Grid, you'll have probably the most comprehensive understanding of story that you could ever have. Story Grid actually took a lot from Robert McKee's book Story, and what they did is they put it in an order so that a lot of writers could understand it better. And I prefer actually Story Grid to Story, but I haven't finished reading Story yet. Red, you said, did you ever practice writing? Yes, I have. I mean, I've made comic books, so practicing writing and then writing itself, like doing the actual act of writing is a very fluid process that starts off in my mind first, and then once I like really get down to it, that's when I can or once I actually put my ideas down on paper, that's when I can like deliberate with what I put down and decide if it needs to stay or if it needs to go, and figure out different things I can do to what's the word? Figure out different things I can do to spice things up and make things better. Cuz once it's on the page, I can actually like do once it's on the page, I can actually like change it and manipulate it into what I need it to be. Because if it's all stays in my mind, I can't really do anything with it. Um, and that's the writing process for me. Like, I say that Story Grid and Dramatica are like the best two books that you should like look at for writing. But if you're really, you should just do whatever works for you. That's the best way to go about writing. Because if we both read different books but come to like a similar understanding or a strong understanding of writing, then there's nothing wrong with either of our methods. Um, but yeah, that's what I wanted to say about the writing side of things. Uh, Other things I wanted to talk about today was I was looking at, what do you call it? Paneling, paneling, and composition in manga. Share. Let me share my screen. Share entire screen. Cool. So I always watch the Monitor Comics videos about like manga page composition and take notes and whatnot. And then I have two like secret, what do you call it, resources that I use to study page composition that I don't think people have seen these websites. Um, or it's not something that is widely like talked about. Like, these are the websites that I saved maybe 10 years ago. Like, I bookmarked them and I come back to them over and over again just because they're showing how exactly how paneling or how information is arranged in manga and comics. Let me see if there's any. Yeah. So what it'll do is like it shows you how things are arranged on the picture plane itself, and then it'll show you how things are arranged inside of the picture. And it will show you how the eye is being dragged across the page. So you see this, you see the speech balloon, and the eye is going through all the speech balloons. But what the eye does is like they'll read the speech balloon and then go across the image. It'll go across the art, and you're going down going down through the page as you're reading. And a great manga artist or a good manga artist knows how to do this effortlessly. Like, they know how to um move your eye across the page with your drawings or with the speech balloons and with the drawings. They don't need to make the best art. They just need to make clear art. If your art is clear, it doesn't need to be super pretty or super um lavish. Like, uh My Hero has really awesome artwork. Let me go back to my screen. My Hero has really awesome artwork. It's actually probably the best in Shonen Jump when it was running. Now it's actually ended. But it doesn't need to be like, it could be drawn very simply, like the way Dragon Ball Z is drawn. It could be drawn like Dragon Ball. And because Dragon Ball is drawn super clearly, it doesn't need to have all these tones and um effects and whatnot. It's just showing you clearly the action that's taking place and the action that's happening. So it doesn't need to be super lavish. It'll give you the sound effects. It'll give you the hits. Like, as long as you can feel the hits and it's arranged in a clear way that you can understand, um, it doesn't need to be super well drawn. That's how Togashi does his work as well. Um, Let me see. You said, can you imagine a writer who writes dark stories and gets hired by a children media companies to write non-dark stories with no violence, no nothing? I can imagine that, but I don't know what that is a reference to. That's the only thing. Um, But yeah, this is the one site that I use. Let me go back to sharing my screen. Let's see. Okay, cool. So that's the one site that I use. And then the other one is called Zibanya. Let me pull it up. These are my two top sites for learning and understanding paneling in manga. So like if you go to the Art of Dragon Ball, he literally shows you how he takes you step by step of how a Dragon Ball comic is layered and how the information is presented so you understand the information that's being conveyed. Like even down to the silhouettes. So he blacked out the silhouettes so you could see like what is being shown, or like so you could see clearly without being distracted by the characters what the author is trying to convey, what Toriyama is trying to convey. Like they're in black and white, or they're just in black and white, and they're just blacked out. So you can see through the posing. And this is what I call true cartooning. Like it's cartooning to where the posing itself is telling a story. Like you can tell from the positioning and the panel and the way all the information is conveyed, that just what is happening. Like they're apparently delivering milk, and I didn't need words or speech, but I didn't need words or to even see the characters to understand what was happening. It's just you see the word milk, uh but even if the word milk wasn't there, you could tell that they're delivering stuff because they have the boxes in their hands. Like every piece of information, every outline, every line is just a piece of information that helps aid in telling the story. And that's how you should think about cartooning. This is making fun of a of a different comic. Um, and while I liked, I think he's using this as an example of bad, like, what's the word, staging and character acting, or like clarity. He's using it as a bad example. But I like the way that Sandman was drawn, and I like the writing in it. Let me see. Hey, what's up, Koba? How you doing, man? Dragon Ball was peak cartooning. The best cartooning is when you can convey your story without work bubbles. Yeah, exactly. Yep. Yeah. So this is a site. This is what I was showing them, yo. This is a site that I go back to over and over again just to understand the clarity behind comics and manga in general. Like if I need to figure out like composition and flow, I'll look at this page, this website, and it shows like how the information is flowing throughout so that you understand like what is happening without words. And Akira Toriyama is a master of this. And it's just showing you how the eye is being led around and all that stuff. And then he'll make the comparison to American comics where it's different. The the focus is more on the writing itself rather than showing clear action. And I think that's because they have a certain page limit for how much information they can show. And so it's not always clear because we have a division of labor between the writer and the artist. And it's not usually long running, like a huge long running thing. So they don't have the huge amount of page space that a My Hero would have, where they have all this time and space to tell stories of characters leaping through buildings. They don't have like uh the chance to have a whole like page spread of a face. You know what I mean? The writer usually takes up a lot of dialogue with all this, this I don't think you'd ever see that in a manga. They usually, this is what I see normally. They usually limit it to 2 or 3 speech balloons per panel. And then something like this would be egregious. It would make it difficult for for the readers to read. They would tell them not to do that, split it up into multiple pages. Like if I'm looking at this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's too much. It's like this character is talking literally too much. And they would say split that into like several other pages or something like that. Versus like here, let me show you. Let me go to versus here, it's like, okay, we get a pause, a moment to like kind of breathe on this page here, and then we get back into the talking. It's just 1, 2, 3, and we're looking at the characters. Like you want to split it. It's hard to take what's in my head and then explain it, because you have the picture plane, which is the flat way of looking at it. Like you can use perspective and all that inside of the picture to convey distance, but when you're looking at it just flat, you're looking at the surface of just seeing the speech balloons here and here, and then the characters right there in the middle. Like that's literally where they're placed on the picture plane, on the flat surface. But then in the picture plane, inside of what the picture is, they're actually like in the back because of the perspective choice. Said best American comics are the ones where writer and artist are the same person. Yes, absolutely. I agree. But then there's also Invincible, which is like, you know, that kind of flies in the face of it. But then you have like comics like, let me see. Can I reach it quickly enough? Give me 1 sec. Yeah, my favorites are these two, just written and drawn by the same person. What's up, Angels of the Renaissance? How you doing, man? So like you got this. This has the most like human feeling characters in basically all of comics in my mind. Like their expressions are so real. It feels like you're reading about real people. Like look at it. To me it's sublime. It's like, okay, this is like a real human that I'm reading about, and I want to know more because she's just acting real. Like most manga characters don't act like this, and that's where I think um, I have the ability, or we have the ability in America to do different things, like to show characters acting like just differently. You know what I mean? Like real people. Because anime characters tend to overact and you know show crazy expressions and whatnot, but this is like, this is a real person. You know what I mean? And then another one that's really good is Empowered by Adam Warren. This one's great just because he takes it's mostly like it's kind of softcore softcore porn at some points, but he's so good of a storyteller, and he knows that anime and manga can get away with all the fan service that they do because they back it up with solid writing. So he has mastered the solid writing part of it to where you can read the story and you're like, oh, these are people too. Like they're acting like they have well, he has his own way of writing dialogue and characters, but they feel like deep people with a past and trauma that they have to overcome and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, Empowered is great. I think I read up to volume 11 or so. And then the other one is Strangers in Paradise. These are the basically the three that I look up to when it comes to like drawing and writing human looking characters. Um because they're just great at showing, like, look at that. This one right here. This expression is just like, it's so real. You never see this in anime or manga. It's not super exaggerated. It's subdued, but it's like what you would see a human make, like you would see a human being making that face. Um, but manga has to overblow everything just to keep the reader interested and keep things selling and whatnot. But let me show you my favorite expression in this because okay, yeah, I actually posted it up on Twitter a long time ago. It's this 3-panel sequence here in the middle. And watch this girl's expression, Kachu. That's her name. And she's just talking to this girl's mom, and she says some weird shit. And then in the last panel, she's like, okay. You know what I mean? Like that, you can hear it. Like the way I said it, okay. Like that's how you hear her speaking, or yeah, that's how you hear her speaking in this panel because her face is doing all the talking. Like she's nervous and kind of weirded out, and that's the perfect expression to put in that exact situation. Um, by comparison, Horikoshi's expressions. Well, this is shown in manga, so everything is going to be turned up to 11, and being turned up to 11 is not a bad thing by any stretch. It's just giving you a more intense experience by drawing that way, and there's nothing wrong with it. Um, but I want to, in my personal opinion, I want to create more human moments in my comics, in my artwork. So that's the thing that I like to try to focus on and get down to. Drag Fang, what's up, man? Hey, did you ever read Antarctic Press 2 comics, Ninja High School and Gold Digger? No, I haven't, but I've heard a lot about them. I've heard Gold Digger is like, I think almost 300 chapters, or it's gone past 300 chapters. And Ninja High School, I know Ben Dunn did that. I've met him a couple times at different conventions, and he's a good guy. But yeah, I haven't read those. I haven't read those manga. But what else did I have to talk about? I think the other day I was just like there was so much pent up inside me. I was just like, man, I need to start talking about stuff because I'm learning a lot and I'm not getting it out there. I'm not being able to speak about it or say anything about it. I don't consider myself a teacher at all. I can't really teach or convey my ideas as well because teaching about stuff and actually doing it are two different modes, two different like thought processes. And when I'm in the mode of trying to do and create and study and analyze, it's a way different experience than trying to make other people understand what I'm thinking, because a lot of what I'm thinking is very complex and follows a train of thought that I've been developing over years just by living my own life. So it's like I can't even convey what I'm thinking to people. I just have to do it, which is what I think One Piece does. Like he is able to, he isn't, you can't teach making this. There's no way to teach this because this is insane. The creator of this is an insane person. Like, he is an outlier in a field of outliers. For him to make something like One Piece this long, 100 and how many volumes? This is 100. This says 103. This is volume 103, and this is like all the way, like, it's still, what's the word, interesting. People still want to read it, and it still has vital information that people want to get to. It's almost over, I think we're in the final stretch of it, but it's never gonna end. Me and Kova were talking about that just the other day. Like One Piece will literally never end beyond our lifetimes. They're gonna keep coming up with content for decades, and they're already coming up with a remake called The One Piece by Wit Studio, and I think it's completely unnecessary. I don't know why they're doing it, but it's like, okay, let's start the cash cow now. Let's keep making money on One Piece now. Let's reboot it. Like, I don't know why. I think the original was already great. Let's see. Hey, will you check out Common America, a comic by Iconic Comics? I've heard of Common America. I've taken looks at it. I don't know if it's actually like super good or not. I don't know if the writing is good, but I hope it is. I think it's gotten enough of a fan base that they like enjoy reading it and like it and all that. Um but I wonder how much of that is like the like quote unquote like fan service in it compared to the, I wonder how much of a ratio it is between the fan service and the writing of it. But I haven't read it myself. Capturing the human experience is what I want to achieve with my manga. That's great. Yeah, I saw that you have a Kickstarter going on, Angels. So yeah, I'm gonna check that out and see what's going on with that. Because I think you said you were trying to do 255 pages. That's literally insane. By by October, or you're trying to finish that in a few months or something like that. That's, I don't even know how that's possible, but I'd like to get more details into your like living situation just to see if that's even possible. Like because when you live out on your own, it's like every day it's like you have to focus on food and work, and then when you have time you can draw. But even when you have time to draw, it's like, all right, I drew a picture and now I gotta go back and do this other stuff and market this thing and do this thing. Let's see, Dragfang, you said actually the One Piece anime really needed a remake for its sake. What sake? It's the most popular anime in the entire world, and there's no need for a remake. The only thing they're remaking is more money. That's the only thing they're remaking, man. Um, you said Angels. You said it's already done. That is crazy. How are you even able to do that besides like sheer force of will, man? Do you live with parents? Like, do you have like kind of a nice setup to where you can just focus on working on the comic and nothing else? Because that's the only way I can imagine that happening, unless you I don't know, have a part-time job, or I don't know how to make that work, man. Um, I'm trying to get to a point where I can just fully focus on drawing the comic and all that stuff. Said I take my work to work, and I'm learning more about this Kickstarter stuff. And yes, I finished it before doing the campaign. Yeah, that's dope, man. That's fucking dope. Um, I my work is not a job where I can like work and draw at the same time. I wash dishes, so I have to just do the dishes. I can't really draw and do the dishes. I have to do the dishes and then come home and then draw. If you don't mind me asking, what kind of full-time work was that? Like a security job or some kind of job where you can like sit and draw at the same time? Because that that's actually really impressive to be able to do a 255 page, was it 255 pages of manga in time for a campaign or in a few months and whatnot. But I used to want to be like a great mangaka, a great manga artist, and compete up there with One Piece and Naruto and all that stuff. I learned Japanese to a point where I was like, oh yeah, I can read pretty decently. Like I could read this whole manga Um, but I won't be able to comprehend the whole thing. What I would need to do is actually listen and read manga or Japanese for at least 2 weeks before I get back to my old reading level and listening comprehension level and all that stuff, so I can like get back in the flow of it. Because there was a point in time, especially during my first year of the Kubert school, where I put Japanese on everything. Like I changed my computer to only show me Japanese. I changed my phone to only show me Japanese. I was listening to Google Maps give me Japanese instructions, and I was like, okay, cool, that's nice. And I put not TV. I put my YouTube on only Japanese channels. I switched my what's the word, country to Japan, so I was only getting Japanese content from uh from my YouTube feed, and that's how I was like really taking in Japanese. And so because I was taking it in ambiently for so long, for months and months on end, when I first went to a Japanese meetup where we were only allowed to speak Japanese, I was actually able to converse and understand what people were saying at the meetup, because I was just taking it in constantly, constantly, constantly. And they call it there is a method called all Japanese all the time, or AJAT. And I learned it from this guy called Katsumoto. He made a whole website on it, and I used to just read that thing all the time, every day, all day. And I was just learning about like, hey, this is what you do to learn Japanese. This is where you can get Japanese books. This is where you can get all this like information, and this is where you can watch Japanese TV. I used to use this program called Keyhole Television, where I would just use it to watch live television from Japan while I was studying this program called Anki to do space repetition of Japanese cards to understand kanji and whatnot. Let's see. I used to do dishwashing. I didn't mind. I did mechanical work. I need to get on your level on reading Japanese. Reading Japanese is difficult, but once you understand hiragana and katakana, you're already half of the way there. The rest is just learning kanji, which is a space repetition type thing. You just need to learn. I have all the resources on how to get to doing that. I just had to dig them up because I went hardcore on it back when I was like 14. I was trying to be like the Bakuman kids, dude. I was trying to I was trying to really I was trying to compete with fictional characters of the quality of manga I was creating, because I was like, okay, these guys are 14 and 15. I'm 14 and 15. I'm gonna do the same thing that they're doing. And by the time I was 17, I only created like maybe one 30 something page comic, and it was just like okay. It was fine. You know what? I'll show y'all. Because I tried to do it. I tried to submit it for a Shonen Jump contest, but I missed the deadline by a day. Um, and I was like so disappointed. And most of the time, I was just playing video games. I was playing Metal Gear Online the whole summer, and I was trying to do the comic at the same time. But there would be a lot of places where I'd just get stuck or bored, and I was like, oh, I don't want to draw this scene, or I don't want to draw this thing, and I was like, oh man, this is crap. I don't want to keep continuing this. This is all bad. And there would be so many points where I just want to give up. And then eventually I finished it, but it turned out that I missed the deadline. I was just like, damn. Oh well. And you know what? Japanese manga contests are a scam. I'm gonna get to that in a minute, but I want to look at these comments. Hey, what's up, Gabriel? How you doing, man? You said I got a free trial of Storyboard Pro. I made a storyboard with Wacom tablet and entered the Nick Artist program. Nice. Yeah, I think you've been telling me about that on the side, man. That's dope. Congratulations, dude. Dragfang. Although manga is getting more popular than Western comics, that shouldn't discourage you, as there are good comic books in the industry. It just needs to have center stage, which they don't get. Yeah, we don't have as much. And this is something I was talking about with Kova on his channel. we just don't have the same infrastructure, the same crack team infrastructure that Japan has, where it's like you create your comics, but you create it on such a schedule that you're continuing to do that, and the editors are there to make sure that you stay on schedule. They'll do anything for you, dude. Like they'll if you're feeling bad about something that happened, they're gonna buy you some like candy or whatever to cheer you up. Or like if your wife is giving you trouble on the phone, they're gonna call your wife and tell her to shut up. You know, they're gonna do everything that they can to make sure that you put your comic out on time. And that's how willing they are to preserve the quality of the work and to preserve the schedule that they have. But we just don't have that in America as much. It's not as rigorous, and the infrastructure reflects it. Like Japanese artists are willing to sacrifice their lives for a chance at getting into Shonen Jump or doing a weekly series. And I think once they see the reality of it, it's like actually depressing. And I think Horikoshi felt that a lot throughout his run, where he was just like, man, all I do all day and all night for 10 years is just make this comic the best it can be. And he's probably set for life, hopefully, if he didn't sell all the rights to My Hero. Imagine that, making that for 10 years, slaving away at it and selling all the rights. And then now you don't even have money to like, you don't even get paid off of it, even though it's like $1 billion franchise or whatever. I'd kill myself, dude. I'd be like, yep, this doesn't matter. I'm out. Like that would be horrible. But I think he's retained enough of the rights to where he's making a good fuckload of money that to where he's not gonna be out on the streets anytime soon. All right, let's see. My brother and I have a place. It's hard to work on manga. Yeah, it definitely is. But you're doing it, especially with the book that you have coming out. Ricader GT, what's up, man? Dragfang, you said that's because DC and Marvel are the ones that take all the spaces in the comic book industry. Yeah, because they built it from the ground up pretty much. So it's like they have the characters, they have the back catalog, they have the infrastructure to really do something on the level of manga and anime, but I don't think they have the ideas, or not. I'm not talking about like storytelling ideas. I mean like um the, what would you say, the business ideas to really put things for, like when Hollywood is similar to the manga industry, where they're a crack team because there's money in it. There's enough money in it to where if you screw one little thing up, people lose billions of dollars, not just millions. Like they lose billions of dollars. Like if one actor doesn't show up, billions go down the drain. So manga is similar to where if Gege Akutami, the creator of JJK, doesn't put out a chapter this week, that's money lost somewhere in the chain. Like somebody doesn't get paid that week, or the anime doesn't come out on time, or something like that will happen somewhere down the line if he doesn't put out a chapter. But it's similar to Hollywood. But then if you look at comics, they're so small scale that it's not even considered. It's not even in the race of things. Like comics take a long time to have a similar success level as manga does, because manga is able to quickly, they're able to set the creator's life up to such a point where they can put out chapters on a consistent basis, weekly basis, where you're putting out 20 pages of new content, brand new content, um, every fucking week. And you're doing that for years and years on end, to where they can make if you're writing well enough, if you're drawing well enough, if your series is popular enough, you can make uh a $1 million franchise literally out of thin air. Like that's what art really is, man. Is like alchemy. Is like, this isn't real. These aren't real people. These aren't real things happening. These aren't even characters, dude. It's just ink on a page. it's ink on paper, but the process of actually drawing and learning to write makes this worth more than the paper. The raw materials, it's worth more than the raw materials that was used to create it, just from the way that they're using art and storytelling to create something. It's literally alchemy and magic, man. um that's how these creators do it, man. And that's what you're learning if you're an artist or you're trying to become an artist, because anyone can just like put some ink and stuff on a page, but it's over a course of time and learning and honing and mastering your craft and focusing on the fundamentals that allow you to make something that generates $1 million and $1 billion or whatever. um but I'm a little scatterbrained today. I was gonna say about Dragon Ball that uh Akira Toriyama is actually, he actually sold off a lot of the rights to Dragon Ball and the creation of it. So he didn't make as much as you would think. But the last time I checked his net worth a long time ago was like he was like at like 17 million. So he's set no matter what. Like he's set until he passed away. But he did sell off a lot of the rights. I think the video game rights and all that stuff. But it's still a huge franchise for what it is. I think it will still be going even when I'm in my old age. I don't even know truly when Shonen Jump properties die, because they're so willing to keep pushing these for as long as they make money, that if they see that they don't make money anymore, they'll just stop putting it out. Like Kenshin still makes money whenever it's adapted into something. So they made the movies, or they made the original anime, they made the movies, they've done OVAs. I never put my hand in the right place. They've done the what else? They got the remake that came out last year. So it's like periodically they'll reboot it, restart it, do something in a different style or whatever, just because they know it'll make money. A lot of art is created just because it's tied or connected to an idea that generates revenue for the creators and for the artists producing it. Most things aren't made because there isn't enough money behind it. And that's why people, when you think of making your comic a masterpiece or making it as strong as it could possibly be from the very start, it it won't be in the highest form it could be, because it takes a combination of multiple people to make something as strong as a Dragon Ball, or as strong as a My Hero Academia. It needs multiple people working on backgrounds, your assistants, your editors. A lot of things are coming together to make art of such a high and sellable, marketable quality. Um, that's really what it comes down to. Um, Let me see. What else have I been looking at? Really, I'm just talking off the cuff, off the flow, because I don't really think when I'm doing this live streaming. Let me show you what I was looking at. What the hell? That's not what I wanted. Okay, cool. No. Let me erase that. Okay, let's see. Yeah, so this website is one of those websites that will show you um literally how manga and the art is arranged so that it keeps your attention and keeps pushing you throughout the story. It's literally designed to keep you reading and pushing you forward in the story. And if you can master that, you now have like an ability that will allow you to create things that are worth more than just a single drawing. There's a lot of artists online who are really good at doing just single illustrations that are like they're really good, they're really strong, but it's like I want to know more about their characters. Like I want to know more about the characters that they're drawing. So I'm like, what what more can you say about these two characters? Because people will draw their characters like kissing or doing all this stuff, like hanging out or being friends and whatnot. But it's a very rare few that will draw a whole story so that you can get the full context of the character, because that's of the characters that they're creating, because that's a different skill set. It's a very complex skill set, but it's very powerful once you understand how to implement it. Like anyone can draw a character like Goku. Like anyone can draw Goku, but it literally doesn't mean anything as just a like this is just a let's see. No. This is just some blonde spiky haired guy in an orange suit, I guess. And this is some big headed purple dude. Like it's not these characters by themselves, they don't mean anything. They're just drawings. Pretty well drawn drawings. They're just drawings, you know what I mean? But then because it's attached to this whole apparatus called a manga that you can like flip through and it's like a technology that you can like open up and you're like, hey, what's maybe I can find out more about this purple guy, or maybe I can find out more about this blonde dude and why he's blonde, and more about this green dude. Like, let me look inside and see what's going on here. And then you get a picture like this, and you're like, oh, that's intense. What's going on there? And then you open up to the next page. Let's see, and you get a little bit more context, like, oh, okay, who are these guys? And you're like, okay, that's the purple guy's name. His name is Frieza. And then you get, okay, that's him. Is that his sister or something? Is that? And then who's this kid? And then who's this other kid? You know, and if you don't know the context by them, all you have to do is turn the page, and now you get, okay, maybe these two are fighting or something like that. They're both kind of bleeding out the mouth, and they got scratches and scuff marks on them. Let's see what's going on here. And then it just like you flip through it, and then now you're slowly getting context to everything that you see on the cover, and you're like, oh wow, this is what this is what's happening. This is what's in the story. And this is just built up over years and years and years of just putting pen to page and taking raw materials of ink, raw materials of paper, and just like applying this mystical magical knowledge that you hold inside your head and can apply with your hands and with your pen and pencils, and turning it into something that generates $1 million. um and it's not solely for money. I mean, like, you're making stuff that can move people's souls and hearts and minds. Like this this one book put more people in the gym, including me, than most other like comic books combined. Like it's put so many people like in the gym just by reading it and seeing how the character gets stronger, and people are like, oh, I want to get stronger, and it appeals to them because they know their audience. Shonen Jump knows its audience almost better than they know themselves. It gives them what they want. Let me see. I always see my characters as actors and actresses, and I'm the director and cameraman. Yeah, that's a good way to see your comics and whatnot. Want to know how to print books like manga? Yeah, it's such a weird printing process because all these books from Japan come out exactly like the same. Like they come out all like this, and it's nice bite size. Like you get like a nice little collection with that going, and it feels good to hold in your hand, even though it's like small. It's like the way they print it out is small. Uh, it's just literally how they're all printed, and it's nice. Um, but manga is actually meant to be more of a throwaway fiction. It's not meant to be like this huge, like amazing thing with it. It's not even meant to have great stories. They just figured out that great stories makes more sales. Like if you can tell a good story and entertain with words and pictures and all that, then you make more money doing it. So uh I think manga evolved solid storytelling for for the purposes of its continued growth. And so they just figured out, okay, so this is how you tell stories, like this moment right here up top where he's just showing her I guess this is a candy apple. I haven't read this, but it's clear storytelling where she's looking at it. This is what reads as an eye, and she's looking at that, and then he is smiling, showing her she's not exactly smiling, but she's like intent. She's like paying attention to what he's showing her, and there's like a little sound effect, and then he's saying, what is he saying? Sapura. Oh, he's saying surprise. He's like surprise, and then we get more panels. Like they literally have to arrange information in a way that one keeps you reading, but two hits you with emotions. They're literally arranging feelings. Like they're arranging ways that that will allow you to feel deeply. Um, and when manga cheats, or like let's say they're trying to give you a message and tell you a story and give you a theme, but then they cheat in the theme, meaning like they like say a character that's supposed to die doesn't die. That can kind of put a damper on things where you kind of lied and you said, okay, this guy survives, but not because he should have survived, but because people like him. That kind of makes it difficult to hang on to. Actually, that reminds me of one thing I wanted to talk about. Give me one sec. I'm going to pull out my Naruto volume. Okay, so here I have the Naruto volume where Rock Lee fights Gaara. And one day I just read this and sat and just read the entire story from cover to cover, just because it was the story of the entire fight, and I was like, okay, this is the volume where the fight happens, and it's probably one of the best fights in the entire series because it tells you a full story with it. So let's say you have two characters. One doesn't have to try to win, and he just wins everything, and the other one works hard and fights really well, and he is able to outwork even the talented fighters. Which character would you want to win in a battle between the two? You'd want you want him to win. He's the one who's working hard. He's the one who's trying his best and putting um talent or putting hard work into developing his ability and skills. But then what does Naruto give you? It gives you the exact opposite. It gives you a story that tells you a cautionary tale of what happens if you push yourself too hard. Like, it's literally the story of Icarus flying too close to the sun with his wings. He was warned not to fly too close to the sun with his wings made of wax and feathers, because if he flew too close, it would melt and he'd fall into the water. And that's an archetypal story. Like, that's a story that gives you a lesson on, actually can't even put it into words. Like, it gives you a lesson on not trying to, well, you got the lesson. You get it just from the understanding of it. But our Naruto was trying to tell an archetypal story through the battle, through the confrontation between these two characters. And not only was it entertaining and well choreographed and amazing to look at, but oh, it's showing me my internet is weird. Okay, I think we're good now. But not only is it showing you a an epic battle, it's like it's giving you depth and it's giving you character um moments that people remember years after the actual fight. Any dumbass can throw two characters together and make them slap each other and just slap two uh action figures together on a page. But it takes a really skilled writer to show you how to, like, this is the flashback. Like, it takes a really skilled writer to give you context and empathy and pathos to really invest in the fight. Like he's crying just immediately, that shows you that's a moment to really like rest there on. It's like, okay, we've seen this character before, and he seemed kind of like cocky at first in terms of where he came into the story, and we've seen his like failures and we've seen what he's good at, and then now he's getting to fully display everything that he's got. And then at the end, he fails. Like, despite his best efforts, he fails. And it's like, you feel that failure. You're like, wow. That moment hits. When I was watching this as a kid, I was just like, this is amazing, but I don't know why. But I want to understand why. It's just like, I didn't read the manga. I watched the anime mostly. But it hit me as a kid because it wasn't something um that you just watch and you're like, oh, that was a cool fight, and then you go away from. It was like, you see his master block that last hit from killing him, and you see that they're not just a couple of joke characters. They're actually really deep, and they have like feelings and stuff. You're like, what the heck? This is interesting. I'm feeling things along with the battle. It's not just a quick one and done. Usually American comics are like, we throw a couple punches here and there, and then we find some trick that'll allow us to win the fight. But this is something different, completely different. Like, he busted himself up so much that he was never able to become a, like, even the fact that he got up afterwards and he's not even conscious. that's what made it one of the best fights in the series because of all the stuff that happened at the end. And the context we got during the fight is what made it uh such a strong catharsis filled battle. Like it wasn't just a bunch of characters doing stuff. And that's what most comics are. Like they don't know how to put the emotion in the battle. That's why I consider JJK to be. It's just a bunch of like fights, characters coming together and just blasting each other with the best abilities and skills that they have. And I think people like it because they can kind of get into it almost like sports, where they can like predict and try to understand people's like motivations and stuff behind the fights. But they don't draw me in just because I don't care about the characters as much as Kishimoto made me care about Lee in this fight. And he must have been like maybe 25 or 28 when he was um, drawing this or writing this, because it's like he has such an advanced understanding of storytelling and writing that it's like, wow, that's amazing that you're able to give us all this and such a developed world and such a developed power system that we can follow along. He's a genius among geniuses. Um, and we have a few of those in American comics. We have a few of those. But by definition, there's going to be a few. It's not every person that you see is going to be a freaking genius. You know what I mean? Hey, Comic Ken, do you know the King Lion and Queen Lion comic? No, I don't. Let me check that out. King Lion and Queen Lion comic. I forgot I could show these. Okay. Let me look it up then, I guess. I hope it's not pornographic. That would get me taken down. All right, let's see. King Lion. I'm going to write it out the exact way you put it. And Queen Lion comic. I don't see it. Like I see a bunch of stuff, but it looks like, is this it? New series by Versus. No, I guess that's not it. This looks like one of the kind of stuff I would try to avoid doing in making my comics. Like I don't I want to avoid making things super anime like, and also making the designs too distracting, because then I can't really focus on making good characters if I'm always focused on how to draw them. Like they all have kind of the same eyes and whatnot. And I'm always dubious about stories made by indie creators. Um because usually people are just like trying to show, hey, look at my cool characters and whatnot, but I don't feel deeply about the story or who the characters are, if that makes sense. Let me see. I was trying to say the sub medium is able to tell a variety of stories ranging in value that you have a melting pot and a fruit basket. All right, hold on. Hi. Said I definitely agree with what you're saying. Of course, I think manga is a blue to PPP. What the? I said ignore that. The name of their comic is Flame. Oh, okay, Flame. I was trying to say the sub medium is able to tell a variety of stories ranging in value that you have a melting pot in a fruit basket. You can tell an absolute emotional journey, while on the other hand, you get something sloppy, but it's entertaining. Yeah, there's a lot of entertaining, like sloppy stuff out there. But I don't know exactly what you mean by sloppy. Like maybe in terms of the execution or in terms of the art or uh maybe the surface level stuff. Let me see. Flame. Oh, whoops. Flame limited edition. Oh, okay. It's by Black Sands. I've heard of them. But let me see. I want to see the inside of it. Can you all see my screen? Okay, yeah. Review Flame 2.9. Darn it. A goddess of creation, gods of destruction, protective sons, and a jealous brother. There are the genesis of the world, Flame, and four children, Everett and Jamie. A wild tale of world-shaking power, natural, supernatural abilities, and a interesting tale of what links. That kind of stuff turns me off a little bit because whenever things start talking about gods and creation, destruction, it's like the stakes are now on a universal level, and it's like, okay, I'm already tired, man. I'm already fatigued. I can't understand let me see. I can't understand gods and supernatural abilities and all that stuff until you bring it down to like a very simple level first, which is what most manga do, like Dragon Ball. Let me bring out my first volume of that. All right. Said a story. Okay, said yeah, like that. A story can be very surface level, but it has a solid selling point gimmick, like how you described JJK. They want to make their own DBZ. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're so JJK's battle system or their power system is so, what's the word? Complex. Like I couldn't. It's not even complex. I think it's hampered by its reliance on Hunter x Hunter's power system, and I could talk about that for ages. Like it, it's. I had something else I wanted to talk about, but first I just need to cover this. Like it, it's so similar to Hunter x Hunter's Nen system, but it's created so much of its own stuff that it can like separate from that. But it's hampered by how much it takes from it. Meaning like it has to make up new rules. It doesn't have a foundational thing like the Nen system does with the Ten and Hatsu and Ren and all that stuff. It doesn't have that foundational element to it. So it has to make up new rules to cover for the tracks for their old rules, and you can do this with your hand. What does this mean? We don't know, but it makes a domain expansion, I guess. um Versus Nen is very clean, it's very understandable. You can understand how things work, and a there's always a give and take to Nen, and you can't just have a lot of aura and then be the strongest person. um you have to know how to use it, and it also works well with in terms of talent. Like are if you have a lot of aura, that means you're like very highly talented in Nen. um in the same way that somebody who uh is like a master artist or a master at golf or a master at basketball has a lot of talent in that specific skill. So it's not just people are naturally stronger than somebody else. It means they have a lot of talent for Nen, and all they have to do is figure out a way to apply it to make it stronger. Um, and then let's see. But reasonably, somebody who has less aura can make up an ability that can compete with the higher levels of those Nen users. But that's within Hunter x Hunter. It's just that JJK has a very difficult to understand power system because it's always making up new rules for it, and it's like, okay, I can't understand this anymore. But people enjoy it because they find a challenge in trying to understand the power system and um predict how fights are going to go, and it's just got a good gimmick that way. And then I was looking at this. Are y'all seeing my screen? Yeah, y'all seeing my screen. Yeah, so yeah, it's talking about gods of creation, destruction, and power. Like that doesn't get me interested in it. Uh just on a surface level. Let's see. Flame has some stellar art, including its vibrant colors, dynamic posing, and fun art style. The comic is definitely visually appealing. Let me see. And then it's following a teen. So it might be, what's the word? Like a shonen or something like that. I want to see inside of it, but the colors are very eye bleeding. Sometimes people use a little bit too much saturation. Well, what I was trying to make a point about was Dragon Ball. Like before it became about gods and aliens and all this stuff, it was just about a kid and a story about like that was copying Journey to the West, but in its own style. Then it became about martial arts, and at first it was just a story about these two going on a hunt for all the Dragon Balls and all the like crazy funny hijinks that they get into, uh, just from Goku's lack of knowledge about human anatomy and and all the kind of, it was very pervy and etchy in the beginning, where it was just uh just doing all this crazy stuff. But yeah, eventually it scaled up to get to those god battles, those god level battles and whatnot. And it took a long time, but it was it focused on the small things first and doing the small things right, and then it got to those epic planetary destruction type battles. But it was enjoyable as a ride because it started off small. Like Goku's first Kamehameha wave was only enough to destroy a small car, and that's the perfect way to introduce power systems where the power that you're using is enacted or used on a small scale thing or a small scale object or something on a very small scale. Goku's first Kamehameha. Yeah, using on a small scale like this is perfect because it literally shows you just the, like, it literally power scales it. It was like, okay, he's good enough to destroy a small car. That guy is gonna need to pay like huge repairs for it. But before we can, like, if it started off with planetary destruction, let me see. Like planetary destruction level Kamehameha is like, if it started off with that, it would be less believable as a power, and we wouldn't really feel impact of how it grew across the series. Like it started off on such a small scale, and that's what uh allowed us to understand that's the main thing about power systems is so that you understand what level of damage it's doing. Same with Naruto's Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruto's first clone. Like, look at that. What they said is pathetic. Look at it. It's not even good. It's trash. Look at that guy. It's hilarious. And this thing is a meme now. But it then ended up becoming his strongest jutsu in the series and his signature, the one that he uses the most. And before it could get to this, it had to be this. It had to be that first. And that way you get to power scale it and see it for you get to have that understanding of what it's really capable of, or what Naruto is really capable of. Drag fan, you said, hey, do you know Indie Planet? Yeah, I know Indie Planet. I've wanted to put my book on there, but I think it's connected to Kablam, and I didn't have a good experience with trying to print with them first. So I might hold off on trying to put my stuff on Indie Planet. um I don't know what else they sell on there, but it's been a while since I visited that site. But yeah, starting to reach the 1 hour 30 mark, so I'm gonna start wrapping things up here. I'm not sure if there's any questions y'all have, or anything else to talk about. I felt like I had more to talk about before, and I don't know if I'll keep doing these consistently. This isn't even something I what's the word? This isn't even something I do regularly. I just felt like doing it like the other night, and I was just like, yeah, I gotta let me just make a video about something. Because I was thinking a lot about a lot of stuff, um, and I needed to put something out there. Today I didn't have as much in mind, but it just started to kind of flow out as I got over. How do I go about designing characters? Characters, I look at my favorite characters from throughout like manga history, like Goku and Kenshin, and I think about what does my story need, and what is easy for me to draw multiple times over and over, and with details that I can remember, and then who is or what the character should look like, what is their role in the story. And if I know their role in the story and what they're supposed to do for the main character, then I can design their clothes and their look based on what they're supposed to be. So like Saito is a rival character to Kenshin. So he's taller, he's more sharp featured. Kenshin has all the cute features where he's like, look at him. He's almost like a boy. Like he's 28, but like he's almost like a young man. But in contrast to him, his rival character has longer features, a more severe face. He almost looks evil, but he's a policeman, so he's not exactly evil. Um in comparison, in contrast to Kenshin. So it's like that's how you would that would be like the basis for starting your character design, is their role and function in the story, and then you can basically design anything. You can add whatever is cool to draw, or whatever you like drawing, or whatever looks good to you in your own mind. You can add that to them. Thank you, Ken, for the update on your progress. I have to be up early, sir. You, sir, have a great night. Good night, chat. Good night to you, Angels. Thanks for coming on, man. Appreciate your question, Ricator. Is that how you pronounce that? Ricator GT, based off of Dragon Ball GT. Nice. But yeah, that's basically it. That's all I had for this stream. I don't know when I'll do this again, or if I'll do this again. Probably, yeah, I'll probably do it again at some point. But maybe when I have more to talk about, or more things on my mind that I really want to get out and say, and talk about like story writing. Um, and maybe not just story writing, but other things like life stuff and going out and socializing and talking to people and dating and all that kind of stuff. I feel like I want to just speak and express myself now for some reason. Because me personally, I've always wanted to draw comics, but I spent so much of my life just focusing on the craft and focusing on improving in making story and comics and whatnot that I neglected the side of my life that needs to be expressed, like dating and whatnot. So I might talk about that more in future live streams and whatnot, so that hopefully I can help out somebody who needs help in that realm. But yeah, thanks for coming on, y'all, and joining me for this stream, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace out. And